Why does God allow suffering? For nearly a year, I kept the flask-shaped cocoon of an emperor moth. It is very peculiar in its construction. In the neck of the flask is a narrow opening through which the perfect insect forces its way, so that a forsaken cocoon is as entire as one occupied, no rupture of the interlacing fibers having taken place. The great disproportion between the means of exit and the size of the prisoned insect makes one wonder how the exit is ever accomplished at all, and it never is without much labor and difficulty. I happened to witness the first efforts of my imprisoned moth to escape from its long confinement. Nearly a whole forenoon, from time to time, I watched it patiently striving and struggling to get out. It never seemed able to get beyond a certain point, and at last, my patience was exhausted. Acting as though I were wiser and more compassionate than its maker, I resolved to give it a helping hand. With the points of my scissors, I snipped the confining threads to make the exit just a very little easier. And lo, immediately, and with perfect ease, out came my moth, dragging a shrunken body and little shriveled wings. In vain I watched to see that marvelous progress of expansion in which the wings silently and swiftly develop before your eyes. And as I traced the exquisite spots and working of divers colors, which were all there in miniature, I longed to see these assume their due proportion, and the creature appear in all its perfect beauty, as in truth it is one of the loveliest of its kind. But I looked in vain. My false tenderness had proved its ruin. The pressure to which the moth's body is subjected in passing through the narrow opening is God's provision for forcing the juices into vessels of the wings, these being less developed at the period of emergence from the chrysalis than they are in other insects. And so, because my moth did not go through the entire process, it was never anything but a stunted abortion, crawling painfully through that brief life which it should have spent flying the air on rainbow wings. The lesson I got that day has helped me to understand what some call the hardness of God's love. I have thought of it often when watching, with compassionate eyes, those who are struggling with sorrows, suffering, or distress, and when going through distress myself. And it has seemed to me that I was more merciful than God, and I would like to have cut short the discipline and the suffering and given deliverance. Short-sighted fool, how can I know that one of those pains and groans can be spared? The far-sighted, perfect love of God, which seeks the perfection of its object, does not weakly shrink from present suffering. Our Father's love is too true to be weak. Because he loves his children, he chastens them, that they may be partakers of his holiness. With this glorious end in view, he spares not for their crying. Made perfect through suffering. As Christ was, the sons of God are trained up to obedience and must be brought to glory through much tribulation. I would hasten my escape. Psalm 55:8. All the days of my appointed time will I wait. Job 14:14. Now no chastening for the present seemeth to be joyous, but grievous. Nevertheless, afterward it yieldeth the peaceable fruit of righteousness unto them which are exercised thereby. Hebrews 12:11. And not only so, but we glory in tribulations also, knowing that tribulation worketh patience, and patience experience, and experience hope. And hope maketh not ashamed, because the love of God is shed abroad in our hearts by the Holy Ghost, which is given unto us. For when we were yet without strength, in due time Christ died for the ungodly. Romans 5:3-6. And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. Romans 8:28.